Thank you, Dan. When we were younger, many of us used to take road trips. Unfortunately, as some of us have aged, the time to take road trips has diminished. And if you actually were trying to avoid Carmageddon this weekend, you can take JetBlue and fly to Burbank. However, road trips create a lot of opportunity. And today we'd like to introduce Ray Ricafort, who was in season 6 of Road Trip and is the director of Road Trip. And he's going to share with us how we can take a road trip without even being in a van. Ray?
Hi, everybody. I work for an organization called Road Trip Nation, and we send students on road trips. So, a lot of people hear road trip, and they're like, oh, yeah, a road trip. I know, that's kind of like this, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's probably a little bit of this going on too, right? Yeah, and a little bit of, But I want to introduce you to a road trip. It's one word. And it can be defined as an exploration of self-discovery, or to travel while defining your own road in life by seeking advice from leaders who live purposeful lives doing what they love. And so I've been on a couple of these road trips, and I want to share my experiences with you guys, but if I can, I just want to take you back to the 6th grade with me for a minute. And so this is at a time where I realized I'm loving poetry, and I love writing, and I have a passion for it. And one day I'm at school, and my teacher's like, Ray, you know you have a talent? And of course, talent. What is it? And she says to me, he goes, you have a talent for writing poetry. And it blew my mind. No one had ever said that to me, and I was so excited. So I run home after school that day, I go up to my mom and dad, I go, Mom, Dad, my teacher said I have a talent. And they go, oh, that's great, what's your talent in, I said, I have a talent for writing poetry. And then they get this quiz look, and they look at me, and they go, oh, that's great, You just need a talent for something that matters now. And it was tough for me, it was something that stuck with me because it planted that seed of doubt in my head that something I was passionate about didn't matter. And that's why these road trips have been so important to me, because it gave me a chance to see that the things I was passionate about, the things that were important to me, did matter. And so I just want to share a clip with you here from one of the road trips that I did in New Zealand, where basically we went around and we interviewed people of all walks of life. And we just got their stories of how they got to where they were in their lives and asked them for advice in hopes that they might be able to help us with our next steps in life. So, check it.
If you're in the moment enough and you feel what people are about when you present yourself, then roll with them, because you've got at least 10 million songs inside you.
I had my legs off on Christmas Eve 1982. 23 years old, and you look down the bed and the sheets end halfway down the bed. And it's like, right from that moment onwards, it was, wow, how can I turn this into an advantage?
Sometimes with bungee we see it as actually like a pinprick in time and space, and everything leads into it, and it's like a big funnel, a big code just going towards this one pinpoint in time, which is the time when your brain says to your body, okay, now it's time to go. And then beyond that, it just goes into another funnel which just opens up into the rest of your life. So it's a point of intense focus that doesn't actually occur in our lives very often.
So that's just a little snapshot into the road trip that we had. But it's really hard for me to explain the true power of that road trip. To speak to people that you admire, people that you look up to, and people that are doing things in the scope of their lives that you know you'll never accomplish. But they connect to you, and they see themselves in you when they share their stories, when they talk about their struggles, when they talk about their fear, when they talk about their success. And they encouraged us, and they empowered us. They told us we could do it. DLT, when he told me, you have 10 million songs inside of you, I remember that like yesterday, And so when I got home from my road trip that day, I said, I'm going to make a promise to myself. Everything that I've ever wanted to do, I'm going to take this momentum, I'm going to take this progress, I'm going to take this confidence, and I'm going to create the life that I want for myself, and no hater or hurdle is going to stop me at all. And then I got a call from my sister. She called me the day after my road trip, and she said, my nickname. She said, "Dad's cancer is back, and there's no more treatments for him, and you're gonna have to move home." And it turned my world upside down, you know? And I felt like I lost all that progress that I had. I was just shocked. And slowly, you know, in the days packing, getting ready to move home, I started thinking about Mark Ingalls and what he had told me about when he had his legs amputated. Like, how can I turn this into an advantage? You know, and slowly I realized in the days that I had an opportunity, I had a chance to truly get to know my dad. I had a chance to hear his stories, and I had a chance to spend the final days with him. But most of all, I had a chance to go on a road trip with him. And so, in those final months I spent with him, I listened to his stories. I heard him talk about how he came from the Philippines to the United States, about how he opened up his first pizza shop in San Francisco, and I even heard him talk about how he proposed to my mom. And I saw him transform, physically and mentally. You know, physically, he was this proud and stout man, you know, and then he transformed into this feeble, frail shell of himself, and he had trouble doing everyday tasks. But mentally, he was in the finest form I'd ever seen him. I saw him let go of that pride. I saw him let go of that ego, and I saw him find peace. I saw him find answers, you know? And most of all, I saw him find the most genuine smile that I'd ever seen him have in his life. And one day, he's sitting at his bed. He motions me to sit down next to him. He says, "Son," he said, "I want to talk to you about what's really important in life." He said, "You know all that money and those material possessions?" He said, "Let go of that stuff. That's not important." He said, "You know when I pass, I'm not going to take that with me." He said, "What's important is my family, it's my friends, my loved ones, and my relationships, and how I treated those. That's what I'm going to take with me, and how I treated my neighbor." And at this point, you know, I'm sobbing. I'm like losing it here. I'm bawling. I'm realizing he's giving me his final advice. And then he says, "Son, I want to tell you about my dream." He said, "I've always had a dream to inspire people." He said, "If I can't continue that, I want you to continue that for me." 2 days later, my dad passed. And it was just like Henry Van Ashton talked about, that intense moment of focus, that point that opens up to the rest of your life. And I realized then that my road and my life had changed. I realized I was going to continue my dad's story. I was going to continue his dream because it was the same as mine. I just want to tell you that the road trip has the power to shift your perspective about yourself, the world around you, and what you're capable of within it. You all have the power to go on a road trip. The power of the road trip lies within its stories. It doesn't matter how many miles you travel, it's about the people that you speak to and the moments that you share. Each and every one of you is a storyteller. Each and every one of you has a story and an experience unique into its own. So therefore, your greatest teachers are sitting amongst you right now. And it's truly up to you whether or not you choose to listen or to share these stories and to impact another person's life. And I truly, truly hope that you do. And I leave you with this. If only we dared to share the stories of our existence, then ignorance wouldn't be bliss, because we'd have found wisdom. So share or share not. Let your soul be a prism or a prison. Because we all have life, but living isn't given. But just remember, when your road trip ends, you'll be left to answer the question to yourself: how well was it driven? Thank you.
If we didn't have a few more talks, I think we're all ready for a road trip. Ray, thank you for a wonderful talk, and truly a great message that life really continues and should be